the left side in y1, 4x squared plus 8x plus 6, and then the right side and the next one there. And what you'll see, and I'm going to snip this in, is that the graphs don't intersect. Okay, so that, let me snip this down. So graphically, there is no solution. They don't meet.
Okay.
So not sure why you would get that as the first one. I didn't make this one up, but you know, sometimes that happens. All right.
Okay.
So let's go to number 2. Snip that in here. All right, so number 2 here. 2x squared minus 4x minus 17 equals 3. I like to move the constant over to start. 2x squared minus 4x equals 20. We're going to fill in this thing in red here. We're going to put a number there. It's got to be on both sides of the equation. To talk about why that is if we need to. Then I like to factor out whatever the leading coefficient is. I always factor it out. X squared minus 2x. Okay. And this is really the completing the square step, what we're about to do here. So it's figuring out what number goes here so that this becomes what's called a perfect square trinomial. And it's always half of this number with the sign. See how I cut that in half?
Yeah, and that means the top one is 4, right?
Well, this becomes +1 because it's -1 squared. You always square the last one, but you're multiplying by 2. So this becomes +2. So the way we get that, and I think that could be the only, it's when you distribute in here, that becomes +2.
They taught us it was b over 2.
It is if a is 1, but you have to square it. This number down here is b over 2 if a is 1.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I don't like the formulas, because there's like a big exception, which is if this isn't 1. But what you should see here on the left side is that every line is equivalent. 2x squared minus 4x plus 2. If you factor out a 2, it's x squared minus 2x plus 1. And then this perfect square trinomial is x minus 1 squared. Fair and balanced, add 2 to both sides. Kind of like if you had a brother, I don't know if you have a brother or sister, but if they get 2 new clothings, you get 2 new clothings or something like that. Questions on that? Thoughts on that?
No.
Okay, so you got to bring this down. You got to remember to bring the 2 down. I will likely forget at some point, but you got to be better than that. You got to remove those down here. So now this is something that you can solve. So you divide by 2 on both sides. You always divide by that leading coefficient. So the whole point is to solve by completing the square, meaning like you don't just complete the square, you solve. So here you're going to take a square root of both sides, plus or minus the square root of 11. Nice thing is that it's a positive number, so we can actually take the square root of it or go to the calculator. X minus 1 equals plus or minus square root of 11. Add 1, add 1. So your answers are 1 plus square root of 11, 1 minus the square root of 11. And that's where you got to go to your calculator and work that out here. So if you got one handy, go ahead and calculate those. I'll do the same. Let's make sure we're on the same page with those numbers.
Plus. And then 4.32 around.
Yep, that's one of them.
One of them, yeah. And then the other one One minus. I'm at negative 2.2 as well, or 2.32.
Negative 2.32. Yeah, good. So this is the exact. This is the approximation.
Yeah,
All right. Fantastic. So this one worked. This was a good reason to use the quadratic formula. I'm sorry, completing the square. So we'll just keep going in order here. All right. So, I was a math student like you a long time ago. And whenever I saw something like this, it just bothered me that the number was on the left. And the sooner that you can just realize that, okay, I can move the 100 to the left, but it really goes on the right, the better this will be. Like if you add 100 to -7, it's 93, and it's on one side of the equation. And it's okay if you need to write all those steps out, but you want to get to the point where you can just visually swap places with things and not have to write down, every single step, because the math problems just get longer and longer.
okay.
So this one, much like the last one here, you factor out the leading coefficient. And you're factoring out from this unknown value that we don't know yet, which we will find out. Okay. But you don't know it yet. You basically have to work down and then back up. All right. So can you
Okay.
tell me what goes in this binomial?
3 plus 3.
It takes on the sign here.
Oh, minus 3.
X minus 3 squared. So you take half of this number. That's the big takeaway from what you've done so far tonight, is you have to say, okay, half of that number. And then what do you do from here?
Multiply it by 2.
Square it. Square.
Yeah.
Square is different than
9.
multiplying by 2. So that's plus 9. Now everything in this top row is the same as this bottom row when you distribute the 2 in. 2 times x squared is 2x squared. 2 times minus 6x is minus 12x. 2 times 9 is
Plus 18.
plus 18. That's what goes here. That's what goes here. So you start bringing stuff down like that. Questions on that? Thoughts?
No.
Okay. So you divide by 2. So you get x minus 3 squared equals 111 divided by 2. Unfortunately, this one, when you take the square root on the right here, really doesn't work out very nicely, but we can do that. X minus 3 squared equals plus or minus the square root of 111 divided by 2. Now, have you guys talked about rationalizing the denominator at all? And I can show you.
Maybe.
Okay, let me kind of keep going on this a little bit. So you can take the square root of the top and the square root of the bottom. Okay, and what I mean by rationalizing the denominator is getting rid of the square root in the denominator.
Oh, yeah, we have
So to do that, you multiply the top and bottom by the square root.
negative by the square root of 2.
Yes,
You get 2 on the bottom.
that's right.
And then the square root of 222.
Yes. All right. Now the rest of this problem here is not too bad. The left just becomes x minus 3 plus or minus square root of 222 all over 2. And then you add 3 to both sides. Like that. So there are 2 solutions. You got to do each of them. 3 plus square root of 222 divided by 2, or maybe put 1/2 in front. 3 minus 1/2 the square root of 222.
220 squared, or 222 divided by 2. plus 3. For one of my answers, I got 13.45.
Almost there. So you got to be careful that you're not dividing this number inside the square root. That's kind of what I heard when you said that your answer.
Well, I did that, so I found the square root of 222 and then I divided it by 2.
Okay, and then add 3 to it.
Yeah, and I got 13.44983.
Yeah, you're off here. There's something not quite right here. So let's go through it. Square root of 222. What do you get for that?
Two, two, two. Oh. Yeah, so I got 14.8996.
Okay, and then take half of that.
So then, no, it'd be, oh, so I must have added 3 twice.
Yes, that's what it looks like.
10.45. And then minus 3 is 4.45.
Negative, because it's 3 minus the order matters here, minus 4.45. 3 comes first, subtracting this number. Is that unclear, or is that?
No, that makes sense to me now.
Okay. All right, let me have you just quickly try a couple of these type of square root things in the calculator. Let's say it's 7 minus the square root of 61 over 2. Can you give me that value, please?
The value of 7 minus square root of 61. Okay. And then square root of 61, 7.8 divided by 2 is 7 minus
What kind of calculator are you using for this?
it's like my phone calculator.
Okay, well that's why we're having issues. You don't want to use your phone for this. So
Yeah.
I know probably sound like every time, but don't use your phone. I mean, Apple, or whatever you've got, Android, they make a great product, but it's not a calculator. It's not useful for you, because you want to put it in the way you see it, or at a minimum, you want to put it in like you see in a TI 8384, which is what you might be using.
Yeah, I just got mine, but mine's like about to die.
All right, so definitely need a calculator during our lessons, at least for stuff like this. So I'll take anything besides the phone though for the correct answer, please.
Okay. Seven minus second square root of 61 divided by 2. 3.09.
Yes. All right, very good. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay.
The right
Got it.
calculator.
Yeah, the right tool really matters here. So let's do number 4 on your paper there. This one's kind of already set up the way we want. The reason I say that is it's already got the constant on the right. So I'm just going to rewrite it where I leave a space here. You see me do this in every problem. You create this little gap, and you're going to fill in that gap. And I try to do the problems exactly the same each time so that you can see that it always works here. This time you're going to factor out the leading coefficient, which is -3, x squared plus x, leave a space like that. So this is the first problem where you've seen a 1 in front of the x, or an odd number. really is what it is. It's still the same process. You still have to take this number and cut it in half. And I know that that is not exciting, but that is what it's almost painful here. It's a fraction. So yes, you can have fractions. Okay, so it's x plus 1/2 squared. You're dividing by 2. Then you have to square this number.
1/4.
Yes. Now you're on a trajectory to take a lot more math in your life, and you got to get comfortable with all this. Like it's just, they're just numbers, there's fractions, maybe a little bit more involved, but you can do it. Multiply each of these by -3 in here, and that gives you -3/4 -3/4. So it's actually the first time we've seen a problem where the answer is negative and a fraction, which just happened to work out here. But that's okay, you know, no big deal. Bring the -3 down. On the right hand side here, 1, you can think of 1 as 4/4 -3/4, and that's 1/4.
Okay.
Good news here coming up is that when you try to solve this, when you divide by -3, or maybe better, multiply by -1/3, okay, you end up getting on the right a negative number, -1/12.
Okay.
And what's the problem when you take the square root of both sides here?
You can't, because it's a negative, so it's no solution.
There's no solution. Yeah. So I can't believe that they would ask you to do these, but again, this is no solution. Maybe you have to show that. There is a way to figure that out from the beginning, but yeah, I can't really tell if that's what they had in mind here.
Okay.
All right, so we'll take a look at number 5 next. Are you seeing the pattern? Do you like the pattern? I mean, what do you think of the way we're doing it tonight?
I see the pattern. I mean, I don't really like solving these problems. I think they're kind of confusing.
Well, you're definitely not alone in that regard. Most students don't like these very much. You do use this again in other courses in math, but it's the kind of thing you can relearn pretty quickly as well. All right. So like, rinse and repeat here. You're going to factor out the GCF.
3.
Yep. And you got to remember to leave this space here so that you can know what to put in this space up here. You don't want to try and do it all in one step. Tell me what goes in parentheses down here, please.
I got x squared minus 2x minus 1.
I'm talking about down here. You always go down this way first. You always
Oh, so then
divide by 2.
it'd be minus 1.
Okay, squared. Now what goes back up here?
So square that is plus 1.
Okay. Again, notice you work down and then you start working your way back up. 3 times x squared, 3 times minus 2x, 3 times 1. What goes in this box here?
Plus 3.
Plus 3, plus 3. Okay, so this time you bring the 5 down, bring the 3 down. All right. So what I'd like you to do is solve this from here. I'm going to step away for like 30 seconds. I'm going to grab a drink from the kitchen, but I'll be right back.
Okay.
How are you doing on this one?
Good.
Let me know if you've got any answers yet.
For one of the answers, I got 2.29.
Okay, that is correct. Let's also talk about the exact answer if you've got it.
I got x equals 1 plus or minus the square root of 15 divided by 3.
Yes, that is perfect. All right, so go into the calculator. Not a big deal.
I got. Wait now. I got negative 0.29.
Yes, very good. All right, new problem here. What did we just finish? We did, all right, so we're gonna do 6 next.
Yeah.
These are all the most difficult type. The typical completing the square, you don't get fractions, you don't have to deal with factoring out, you don't have to deal with negatives, but it's actually a lot like quadratic formula. It always works. So here you're going to move the -3 over to the right. So you have x squared plus 5x, leave a space, equals 3. So this is actually one of those nice first types, at least at first glance, but the problem is you got a 5 there, which is not divisible by 2. You still divide by 2. You just write it as whatever that number is divided by 2.
Okay.
So that's your dividing by 2 step. Then you square it. Can you tell me what that becomes when you square it?
25/4.
25/4. You have to add that to both sides. Okay, so this is where 3, you got to think, okay, what's 3? 3 is times 4 times 4. It's really 12/4 plus 25/4.
And then x plus 5 halves equals the square root of 37/4. And
Square root of
x
37.
equals
Yep.
negative 5 halves plus or minus the square root of 37/4.
So you can take the square root of the top and the bottom is a nice number.
Oh yeah, so it's 2 over the square root of 37, or the square root of 37 over 2.
Okay, so go ahead and calculate those two for us, please.
Okay.
The calculator actually doesn't care what format it's in. You can go back to like one of these earlier lines if you wanted. It's just the human that wants it a certain way.
And where's the -7? I'm like doing it on Desmos.
Yeah.
Plus square root of 37 over 2. So then for one of my answers, I got 0.54.
Yes, that's correct. What's the other one? Whenever you got it.
-5.54.
Negative 5.54. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
All right. I'd like you to try. Yeah, look here. Yeah, this one will work. I'd like you to try 8 on your own.
8.
Yeah. And I'll
That was that 6 or 7?
that was 6. We'll come back to 7. It's got a little oddity in it.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm
So,
eight's totally doable. It's kind of like the last few we've been doing. So go ahead and give that a try. Let me know if you have any questions on that.
I'm not really sure if this is right, but I got x equals -1 plus or minus the square root of 1/2.
Like this or square root of like that.
Yeah,
Okay, let's take a look here. So good for you to try one here. I'm going to move that 1 to the other side. So I'll keep drawing it in red here. You'll want to do something to indicate to make sure you don't forget to move it to the other side. X squared plus X. Now this is where you got to remember to cut that X or that 1 in half. So it's X plus 1/2. Okay. Is that what you have in parentheses down here?
no.
Okay. So maybe take a look at what I've got here and see if you can rework the problem. You got to factor that 2 out of everything.
Okay. And it's x plus 1/2.
And then what goes, you have to think about what goes up above here. And then
Squared x plus 1/4.
Okay, and then what goes in the other box there.
1/2.
Okay. All right, so keep going from here.
And then x plus 1/2 squared equals 1.5.
Or 3/2, probably better to go to improper fraction there.
Okay. So then 3/2 divided by 2. I'll probably do that first. And 3.
You can
Yeah.
also think of it as multiplying by 1/2, which might be better, especially when you're dealing with fractions on one side.
That's 0.6. So 3/4.
Yep.
So then x plus 1/2 equals 3/4.
Squared.
X plus 1/2 squared.
Yeah.
So then x equals -1/2 plus or minus the square root of 3/2.
Yes. And this is
Yeah.
correct. This is for sure correct.
Okay.
All right. So let's look at number 7 here together. All right, so again, first thing, move that constant over. Don't factor out, that will make it more difficult here. All right, so you do factor this negative out. So it's you can think of it as -1 if you want. X squared minus 8x, leave a space. You never ever want to have anything. You always want 1 in front. Never a negative, never a 2, never whatever it is. You got to factor it out. That's the only way to make this easier on you.
Okay.
because you'll have now 8 examples of doing it the same way. So now what goes in parentheses down here?
Parentheses. Oh, so it's 8 divided by 2, so then 4. X plus 4.
Keeps the sign. It keeps the operator.
Oh, so X minus 4.
Okay. Divide by 2. All right, what goes up there?
Uh, 16.
Okay, positive 16.
Yep.
But then when you multiply by -1,
You get negative 16.
yes, and that's what you put on both sides of the equation. And then you bring stuff down, bring -1 down, minus 36. This one, though, works out kind of nice because you can, at first glance, you think, oh no, it's negative, right? But you're gonna clear the negative with this -1.
So then be 36. So then X minus 4 equals 6. So then X equals plus or minus 10.
Now you got to be careful about what you just said. You're solving a different problem. You just solved this problem, which is not what's here. So give that another try, please.
The X minus 4 equals 6. Or X minus 4 equals plus or minus 6.
Okay, said well.
So then X plus 4, so X equals 10 and X equals -2.
Yes, much better. Okay. Would you like us to do some more problems like this? Do you have something else you want us to work on today?
I don't have any more examples. Let me look in
Oh,
Google.
these
Let me
are
look in Google Classroom.
okay. Yeah, I can come up with as many problems as we need, but I always prefer to do stuff that you need to have done.
Yeah, so it says solving quiz 3 methods. One of them is complete. Oh, solving quadratics using the square root method. The other one is because one is factoring, right? That's how you can solve quadratics.
Okay.
You got factor, right?
Factoring is a method. Factoring the
And
square root.
factoring using square roots and completing the square. Those are 3 methods, right?
There's also the quadratic formula.
We haven't really used that one yet, though.
Okay. So we can do more completing the square. We can go back to factoring. The
Can we
square root.
try square root? I don't really remember that one.
So you've actually done that in every single problem tonight. Let me show you so you can see it. See this line right here?
Yeah.
That's solving by square roots.
Oh,
Take a square root of both sides. We did it in every single problem today. Take a square root of both sides. So I can give you some that are like that, but you've actually done, that is part of completing the square. Do you want me to give you some, or do you want to? Yeah, why not? Let's do a couple. 9x minus 1 squared equals 55. Yeah. So you have to use the square root properties. Basically, you're just solving it as part of the completing the square. You're going to divide by 9, take the square root of both sides, and then reduce if you can.
okay. So then divide by 9, so 59 ninths. Then And square root of 59 divided by 9, so square root of 55 over 3. Yeah, square root of 55 over 3.
Okay. So give me your final answers here. Excuse me.
So then x equals 1 plus or minus the square root of 55 over 3.
Good.
And then good. Desmos.
This is sufficient. You don't have to. You don't have
Oh, I
to.
don't have to solve. Okay.
No. Let me find another one here for you. That get some answers here. All right. So let me snip this one in. And then we can maybe do some factoring if we need to here. All right. So here's a new problem for you to solve. You want to use the square root property.
Okay. So it's kind of the same way we've solved the rest of them before, though,
Yes.
right?
Yes, and here I should interject with this now. You use the square root property or method when there's just a single x.
Okay.
If you see more than one x, like when we were solving something like this, you're not going to use the square root property.
Okay.
At least not to start.
So then would I subtract 1 to start? I feel like
Yes.
I would. Yeah.
Yes.
So then x minus 3 squared is 72 divided by 2. Negative 72 to 36. And 30 squared equals 36, and x minus 3 equals plus or minus 6. So then x equals 9, and then x equals negative 6.
So you got 9 and negative 6.
Yep.
Okay, so the way you would check this, put the numbers back in. 9 minus 3 is 6. 6 squared is 36. 2 times 36 is 72, plus 1 is 73. That looks good. Minus 6 minus 3. Ooh, that's minus 9 squared. So that's a problem. Let's see what happened here. So you should have gotten something
Oh, it
like,
should be minus 3. Should be minus 3.
all right, that's going to work out a lot better. All right. So just be careful there. You can always check your solutions. It's easy to be off on that. All right, let's do a couple of factoring ones. Does that work for you?
Yep.
All right, we'll start with ones that aren't too difficult here as a reminder of the very first type of factoring that you should always do. We did it a lot today. This would just say to solve by factoring, or would just say to solve, and you might be supposed to know that it's
Factor
factoring.
out 3x.
Okay.
3x is x plus 5 equals 0. So then x equals 0. X equals negative 5.
Good. All right, so much more difficult one here. Well, let's get there. So you got that x is 0, x is negative 5. All right, x squared minus 6x minus 40 equals 0.
There's no common GCF, then let's multiply it to negative 40 and add to negative 6.
Okay, I agree.
Or negative 10. The x squared minus 4x times minus 40 minus 10 or plus 10x. No, x squared plus 4x times negative 40 minus 10x.
There's no, okay, I see what you're doing. Are you're using this grouping approach, which is okay. I would recommend you just write them out, but this will work. What's the GCF between x and
So
x
then
squared?
you get x. So that'd be x times x plus 4. Then you get x plus 4, then you factor out 10, so then x minus 10 and x plus 4.
Now, do you notice that you told me though that it's minus 10 and positive 4, and that those are the numbers down here?
Yeah.
So you can go right to that step
Oh,
for this one, for this type.
okay.
All right, keep going here. What's the final x values?
10, -4.
Yes. All right, next one here, just increasing the difficulty, depending on how long this takes, could be our last question. This one, you do want to kind of use this approach you used up here, because they call it a diamond. It's because this is not 1. Since this is not 1, you have to manipulate 5 and -4. Do you remember that from previous?
Yeah, so you have to like,
Multiply them together.
yeah, and then you get -20 and has to add to -8.
Yes.
Oh, -10 and 2.
Okay, so this is where you go 5x squared minus 10x plus 2x. This time you have to break it apart this way.
Yeah, so it'd
So-
be factor out 5x.
Okay.
And then you get x minus 2, then move that over. And then multiply by 2.
Okay.
So then 5x plus 2, x minus 2. And then your solutions would be -2/5 and 2.
Okay. Very good. All right. Do you want another one here, or do you want to stop?
Oh, we can do one more.
All right. This one's like the last one, so I'll let you work it out as much as you can on your own here.
Multiplier -24x add to 5. -3 and 8, so then 12x squared. 12x squared minus 3x, and then -2 minus or plus 8x. And you get factor out -3x. You get 4x minus 1, or -4x plus 1. -4x plus 1. And then it'd be -2. So -3x minus 2 and -4x plus 1. So then you get this. So -2/3 and 1/4.
You got it. Really good. Well done. That's a tough one. All right, we're going to go ahead and stop there for tonight.